Welcome back, everyone. Welcome to another Wednesday morning. Sheepdog Smokey here, and before we begin, please remember to go on and subscribe, turn on notifications so you're aware of all videos, and to help grow the channel, make sure to hit the like button and go on and turn on notifications as well. Now, what we're looking at right now is really the beginnings of the animosity that sparked the Civil War in the 1860s. Right in 1828, right before the election, tariffs were raised on raw materials and manufactured goods. These are things that were heavily bought by the South from non-American sources, which put a lot of pressure on the South. Of course, they argued that the tariff was unconstitutional. It favored one region over the other. The North didn't suffer the same way that the South did because they were able to produce some of these things. They weren't importing the same raw materials that the South was. So, of course, they're not going to be hit by these tariffs the way the South was. They also argued, based on states' rights, based on 10th Amendment, basically, the states could nullify unconstitutional laws. The state, or the states, or the people in the country truly do have more power than the state or the federal government. The Nullification Act of 1832. This is where South Carolina declared the federal tax, or the federal tariff, null and void. They actually began the threat of secession then. This is 28 years before the Civil War. There are many still who argue the Civil War was 100% just about slavery. And it wasn't. And I will agree. Abolitionists and the North's push to do away with slavery in the U.S. was a massive component of the animosity between North and South. But it was not what started the Civil War. This is 28 years, or I'm sorry, 32 years before, my math is not strong today, 32 years before the Civil War began. The South is already just trying to buck the trend of federal power over the states. This tariff, their Nullification Act, their threat to secede, this is in 1828, 1829, 30 plus years before the Civil War. Now, in response to this, Andrew Jackson, president at the time, pushed for the passage of the Force Bill. This would let him use the U.S. Army to enforce the tariffs. Basically, his response to the South saying, your tariff and your law is unconstitutional, we're not enforcing it, his response was, we're going to force you by military action to obey. If that's not a precursor to the South saying we're not going to bow to a federal government that wants to control every aspect of our lives, I don't know what is. Now, seeing this, of course, not everyone in power was thinking the same way that Jackson did, that, okay, fine, we'll just make them obey. Henry Clay actually came up with a plan to gradually reduce the tariff. Tariffs are not bad things. Tariffs protect American industry while still allowing the import of items, but when you look at modern era, if a tariff was placed on, say, foreign automobiles, it would drive the prices of Toyota, Subaru, Isuzu, things like this. It would drive those prices up. Your Volkswagen Beetle would cost $50,000 while a Ford Focus would cost $30,000. This would aid American industry. Now, I realize there's more shades of gray to this. There's not a car on the planet manufactured in one country alone. Volkswagen has American manufacturing. But that's the basic idea of a tariff, is it encourages the purchase of American materials and American goods. The problem is that you can go too far. There are certain things we can't get as easily in the U.S. as other countries. A massive example would be tea. Yes, we can grow some tea leaves here, but you really need to go to India and to the Far East otherwise to find a lot of the tea that is used today. When you look at coffee, you go to South America. If a tariff was placed on tea and coffee, you would see industries in the U.S., some of them would flourish, but the industry itself would shrink because American coffee growers and American tea growers cannot keep up with India or South America. So tariffs are very sticky situations. And Henry Clay's plan to gradually reduce this tariff placated the South enough to where they agreed to it. They stopped the threat of secession, stopped the threat of nullification, so that the tariff would continue for a time, but eventually they would be back to being able to buy those goods and raw materials. With all of this, come 1832, Jackson was reelected, but he had been running more along the lines of states' rights. After his reelection, he vetoed the renewal of the Second Bank of the U.S., which was moving money into a federalized bank. This basically just kept postponing all of the animosity. It just kept it just below a simmer long enough for him to ease in some things he wanted and ease into other things by his expansion of voting rights to include white men who were not landowners or taxpayers. His veto of the second bank, this put him in good standing with a lot of people. Come 1836, 1837, you have the Whig Party. They were opposed to the destruction of the second bank. They opposed large parties. The Whigs actually ran 3 candidates for president. This is prior to the way we run today, where you have the Democrats and the Republicans and the Libertarian and the Green Party, where each party nominates one person. The Whigs nominated 3 people, and this allowed them a better chance. Basically, you just looked at each individual, and the person with the most electoral votes would become president. The person coming in second would become vice. The Whigs were also opposed to choosing electors by popular vote, something that is coming into kind of play today, just on the opposite end, where we have people now demanding pure popular vote. And they framed their arguments in all of this as opposing Jackson, and referred to him simply as King Andrew. They were opposed to basically what he was running and what he was doing. So with Van Buren as the nominee for the Democrats, we move into the panic of 1837. All of this had led to basically the value for land, cotton, paper money had just been decreased so badly. We were facing massive inflation. Jackson had made purchasing inexpensive land with paper money illegal, saying that you had to use gold or silver. And in some respects, that's not a bad thing, because fiat money, paper money, you look in your wallet, you find a 1, a 5, even a $100 bill. That paper is not worth anything. It is the idea behind it. There is no intrinsic value to a $100 bill, other than the value of the actual paper it's printed on, which is just a few cents. Gold and silver, however, being precious metals, precious stones, these had value because people were willing to trade a lot of goods for them or to give you a lot of value for them. Unfortunately, it didn't work, and we're still facing this inflation, but Jackson himself was proclaimed a hero. He had opposed the Second Bank of the U.S. He had expanded voting rights. Under his presidency, South Carolina did not secede, and the tariffs were kept, even if they were being reduced gradually. Van Buren, however, was blamed for the Depression, mostly because he was very much a laissez-faire politician. He believed in laissez-faire policies for the economy. He wasn't willing to do things like, okay, no paper money for this sale. We're going to use actual items that have value, or things of that nature. With Van Buren basically being blamed for all of this, you have 1840's election. You have William Henry Harrison winning the presidency with John Tyler as vice president. It was the log cabin campaign. Basically, William Henry Harrison, a war hero, and you have him working to show that he is of the common man. The slogan, "Tippecanoe and Tyler too," really playing on the war hero status. Unfortunately, for our ninth president, he didn't take into account Mother Nature. Inauguration Day, William Henry Harrison did not wear a coat. It was to show he was a tough war hero, and he caught pneumonia. He was president for a month and died in office. John Tyler became the 10th president. It was actually the first time in American history that a vice president would immediately succeed his president in office, and also still stands as the shortest presidency in American history. All of these things are coming together, and all of these things are leading up to just more and more animosity between the North and the South. Yes, Harrison and Tyler were able, with the log cabin campaign, to show that they were of the common man. But unfortunately for history, really, it happens the same way. A president will get into office having run as part of the common man, only to run into roadblocks with Congress, roadblocks with the Supreme Court, other things like that. Tyler was not the person that people voted for as president in 1840. With Harrison's death in 1841, Tyler succeeding him immediately, there's going to be a lot of people raising questions of why do we now have a president that people didn't vote for? And this, coupled with the tariffs, coupled with the North and South at each other, the North saying we need the tariffs, the South saying you're killing us with tariffs, it's just furthering these feelings of animosity, these feelings of anger, that now in just 19 years is going to lead to the third major war for the American people in less than 100 years. And that's where we'll pick up next week with basically that 20 years and rolling right into the Civil War. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here, as always, on a Wednesday. Please, again, remember to like and share the video so that we can expand the channel and affect the algorithm, as well as remember to subscribe and turn on notifications so that you're part of the channel and we get to those giveaway points even faster. Until next time, have a wonderful day.